Good morning, students, and welcome back to another beautiful Monday morning. If you recollect, last Monday, we started with the chapter on the Connecting the Dots by Steve Jobs. We will continue with this chapter. If you recollect, the chapter goes on to tell us that he is narrating three stories about his life. We only touched upon one story whereby he gives due credit to his college where he learned calligraphy, and that helped him later on when he established the Apple company. Now let us move on further in this chapter to know what are the other two stories that took place in Steve Jobs' life. My second story is about love and loss. I found what I loved to do early in life was, that is Steve Wozniak and I started Apple when I was 20. In 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company. And then I got fired. It was devastating. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did, and so I decided to start over. Steve Jobs goes on to tell his second story that took place in his life, which is about love and loss. How he found love in his life and how he lost certain things in his life, but of course, he regained it later on. He says that he and his friend Steve Wozniak, at, at the age of 20, both of them started this small company called Apple. And they started this in only in their garage. And finally, it became so popular, people loved it so much that they went on to become billionaires. The company went on to become a $2 billion company. And of course, if you want your company to expand more, you need finance. And for that, you need to involve other people also. So, obviously, from the two, they involved the others also. So, members increased. And after a few years, after 10 years' time, for some reason, Steve Jobs and the rest of the ones who were there along with him, his partners, they couldn't get along. There was some misunderstanding. And the man who had started the company, that is Steve Jobs, himself was fired because of lack of finance. He couldn't continue. So the shares, the others had more than him. And finally, he was thrown out of the company that he started, and it was quite devastating. It was very terrible. It actually shattered him. But he says, something dawned on me. He realized something, that finally he was thrown out of the job, but his creativity, his talent is still there with him. That no one can snatch off, isn't it? So he decided to start all over again. How very courageous it is to start all over again. A man from a billionaire is coming down and beginning once again everything. Let's continue. During the next 5 years, I started a company next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar is now the world's most successful animation studio. Apple bought Next. I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorraine and I have a wonderful family together. So he says he lost a lot of things, but he gained also. He says the next 5 years were very crucial. He worked on how to now build up his success. And not one, but two companies he established, one by the name of Next and the other by the name of Pixar. And during that time, he also came across a very beautiful, talented, amazing lady by the name of Lorraine, whom he later on married. And he says he gained love by marrying her, and also the loss that he had encountered, it went on to become a gain, because now he established two companies. And Apple also, the company that had fired him, realized they had done a big blunder, so they called him back. Apple went on to collaborate with Next, right? And today they're amazingly doing very well in the field of technology. And Pixar is a company which is completely devoted to animation. If you love animated movies, you must have surely heard about Pixar banner. The movie that I can recollect at this moment is the Toy Story, which I'm sure most of you have seen. It is under the Pixar banner. And today, Apple is doing very well, of course, but it is not Steve Jobs who heads the company today. It is Tim Cook. You can Google and see it. However, it says he, along with Lorraine, he says, went on to have a wonderful family. Okay, mark grammar class out over here. The first line, I found what I loved to do early in life. Pick out the clauses and state its kind. So over here, I found is the main clause. What I love to do early in life is your subordinate noun clause, because I asked the question what with the help of the main clause. So I found what I love to do early in life. So therefore, it is your subordinate noun clause. Same paragraph, you come to the last line, it was devastating. Add a question tag, answer will be it was devastating. Wasn't it? And a question mark. Next paragraph, you have the word slowly. Give me the opposite. Answer is quickly. Next paragraph, the last line, you have the word creative. Noun form, creation. And if I have to ask adjective, so it will be creative. Okay, so to be creative, adjective, the creation, noun. Next paragraph you mark, I started a company next. Change the voice. Your answer will be a company next was started by me. That's your change the voice. Okay, this is the picture class. Out over here, you have Steve Wozniak along with Steve Jobs as young gentlemen out over there. And later on, you have Steve Wozniak as a matured individual, quite an elderly look out there. So they were the ones, these two of them started the Apple. Below you have the company at present, how it looks in America, the Apple company. Of course, you must be also knowing that today Apple has branches throughout the world. It's an amazing company, a very rich one. This is the picture out over here of Steve Jobs and his family. You have below the picture with his wife Lorraine, and above you have his wife, his two daughters, and his son. So, this is an amazing family which made him very happy in life. So, he met love as well as success. Let us continue class now. Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. Very important phrase Steve Jobs here uses. He says many a times life hits us with a brick. That means something horrible happens in our life. At that moment, he says, do not say it is the end of it. Because the moment you say it is the end of it, it really becomes an end of it. Rather, he says, we should be courageous and not lose faith. Start all over again, just as he did it, and do not settle down till you do not become successful. Very important. Now, let's do the last story, the third story that he tells us in this chapter. My third story is about death. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy. It turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery and I am fine now. So he tells us about the third story. He tells us, life was very beautiful. He had a successful business. Apple called him back. He had more two companies, Next and Pixar, a billionaire in the world, an absolute happy family with a loving wife with three children. Everything was going smoothly, and suddenly there was a bomb thrown in his life, okay, which shattered. He suddenly discovered that he is suffering from pancreatic cancer, which was something very rare. Very few people suffer from pancreatic cancer. And the worst part was his doctor told him, get all your affairs in order, meaning go home. Probably you have only few months or days left with you. Get everything settled down because you are not going to live long. Imagine someone telling you like that. What can happen? Even the bravest, the richest, the most courageous man can be completely shattered. And that is exactly what happened to Steve Jobs. He says, I met death so close. And he says, at the end, on the same day when he was told, this happened in 2003 class, he says a biopsy was done. I'm sure most of you know what is a biopsy. It is a medical term when you have a certain part on your body giving you pain or a lump is found, the doctors usually do a minor surgery, take that part off and send it for a biopsy. A biopsy, a test. That test proves whether one is actually suffering from cancer or not. Not necessarily always every pain or a lump turns into a cancer, but sometimes it does. So, yeah, unfortunately, Steve Jobs' biopsy came out which said that he was suffering from cancer. However, he did not lose hope. He went through a surgery, and lucky enough, he went through the surgery, and the surgery was a success. And he says he was absolutely fine after that surgery. Mark class the word death. If I have to say turn it into a verb, so your verb will be die. Mark, I had the surgery and I am fine now. Pick out the conjunction and state its kind. So your answer is and it is a coordinator. If I just in that last paragraph, see the first line, I was diagnosed with cancer. Rewrite in the interrogative form. Your answer will be, wasn't I diagnosed with cancer and a question mark. Okay, let's move on, class. This was the closest I have been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Very well put up by Steve Jobs. He says when he came very close to death, he prayed to God, now that he is cured, I hope I do not see death for a few more decades from so close angle. Okay, and but sad enough, class, 2011, he passed away by the same disease. The cancer lapsed back, and in 2011, even the surgery couldn't help him, and he passed away. So, see, 2003 he got it, he became fine. 2011, again he passed away from the same disease. But he tells us not to waste time. He says, don't be trapped by dogma. Dogma is belief, what other people believe. Don't make that your belief. He says, very important is that you should have your own beliefs, your own thoughts, your own way of thinking. Don't drown your thoughts into by listening to somebody else. Listen to your inner voice, he says. So very important is to have the courage to listen to your heart and your intuition. Intuition, your inner conscious, your inner voice. Because many a times our heart and our inner voice goes on to tell you what exactly you have to follow in your life. But what we do is we go to follow what other people tell us. We go to believe the dogmas. We go to believe what other people's thoughts are. And in that bargain, we turn out to be failures. So, this is what Steve Jobs says, do not do it. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called The Whole Earth Catalog. In the final issue, on the back cover, they put a photograph of an early morning country road. Beneath it were the words, Stay hungry, stay foolish. It was their farewell message as they signed off. I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. So, Steve Jobs ends his stories by telling us at the end of the chapter that when he was a young man, he had come across this amazing book by the name of The Whole Earth Catalog. If you Google class, The Whole Earth Catalog has many volumes and it's a beautiful, and these volumes are really beautiful if you go to read it. Very inspiring. And he said at the back of the cover, there was a beautiful picture, but he was not impressed by the picture that much as he was impressed by the line that was written below. And the line said, Stay hungry, stay foolish. And he says, as you move out in your life, as you start your life anew, you have a new beginning. You too should follow this. Stay hungry, stay foolish. What's the meaning of that? Stay hungry. Be hungry for knowledge. Stay foolish, meaning don't be, stay foolish. Doesn't matter. People may call you fool. Don't feel that you know everything and therefore I do not need to learn more or I do not need to go and try out new things. No, very important, class. You have to do that. That's how creativity arises in one's mind. I remember APJ Abdul Kalam in his book once wrote, you got to think, do not stop thinking, because thoughts give rise to creativity and creativity gives rise to inventions. Very important. It says that is what, just as APJ Abdul Kalam said, when he was addressing youngsters, he said that this is what youngsters of today need to do. Think. Don't get bogged down with all the Google games or the PUBG game or the Facebook or the Instagram or the Twitter. Rather, you think what you want to do, and that thoughts will give rise to creativity and inventions that will help you and our future world. So, this is how Steve Jobs also ends by saying, Stay hungry, stay foolish. Mark class the grammar now over here. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog. Identify the clause and state its kind. So, your main clause is there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, and your subordinate adverb clause of time is when I was young. Take the word young, noun form will be youth. Youth. Young is an adjective. Similarly, you have out over there the previous paragraph the word important. Noun form will be importance. Courage, opposite will be discourage. Okay, so this is the opposite. So, with this class, we end up this particular chapter by Steve Jobs, connecting the dots. And I want to end it up by the words of Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Keep this in mind, class. This lesson has given us a lot of instructions, advices. We need to follow it, and especially you as youngsters, you need to follow this in your life. So, have a good day, class. God bless you. Next time, when I meet you on Wednesday, I will be doing the English workshop, which is there in your textbook.